My name is Peter McNeil, and we're here to share some of the key budget highlights with you, our viewing audience. And with me is Andrew Dunn, who's the managing partner and leader of Deloitte Canada's tax practice. Welcome, Andrew.
Thank you, Peter. Welcome.
Andrew, you just came out of lockup. You were able to really peruse through the federal budget. And can you provide us with some key highlights of today's announcements?
Absolutely. Minister Flaherty came into today's budget with his hands tied on many fronts. The fall statement estimate of what the deficit would be showed $56 billion is likely to be the shortfall this year. They came in slightly under that at $54 billion, 53.8 if you want to be more precise. But that still leaves Canada's debt to GDP ratio at 33%, which is way above the federal target of 25%. If you're an optimist, if you're looking at it in a positive sense, you can say that, well, at the peak in the mid-1990s, Canada's debt to GDP ratio was roughly twice that, its current level, almost at 70%. On the other hand, what's happened over that 15 years to some extent, in addition to generally reducing the total amount of government debt, there has been a move to push a lot of what used to be federal debt to the provinces by reducing the transfer payments from the feds to each of the provinces. So you actually still have a Canadian pattern of combined federal and provincial debt of closer to the G7 average of about 60%. So with that as sort of context, and also based on all the very broad hints that Flaherty had offered up in advance, we weren't expecting much on the way of tax changes. The one area that we were first relieved to see is that Minister Flaherty resisted the temptation to defer the corporate tax rate cuts that had been proposed for January 2011 and January 2012. So those will go ahead as originally scheduled. The other thing we were looking for and very happy to see was changes to Canada's venture capital regime that previously had been a serious impediment on non-residents investing in Canadian private companies. And our own John Ruffalo has been chair of a Canadian Venture Capital Association committee that has been working with finance on this for pretty much 2 years. And I think through those discussions, finance has come up with a pretty useful compromise to this, in which non-resident investors in Canadian private companies generally don't have to, in fact, give any withholding tax on a disposition of those securities, and similarly don't have a filing requirement when they dispose of those shares, which are generally, for most non-residents, fully tax exempt anyway. And it was simply the time delay of getting their cash at the end of that investment period and all the paperwork that was required that was a detraction.